Hi there. Today's question is, what does John chapter 1 verse 1 mean? A lot of conclusions have been drawn out of John 1:1, one of which leads to the Trinity belief that Jesus, the Word, is the second member of the Trinity. However, to do that, you have to divorce the writings of John from the Old Testament because you make him introduce a different God than that of the Old Testament. But if you are to marry the writings together, keeping in mind that John, like the other writers of the New Testament, were familiar with the writings of the Old Testament and freely quoted from them, you will come to a different conclusion. For example, let us compare what John wrote in John chapter 1 verse 1 to 3 with what is written in Proverbs 8 verses 27 to 30. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. John is saying that in the beginning, or before anything was made or created, was the Word, meaning the Word was already in existence before creation happened. The Word was already there. So if you take your mind way back to the time when all things were made, you will find the Word was already there. Then he says, the Word was with God and the Word was God. He is talking about two beings. One is God, and two, the Word that was with God. Notice he said the Word was with God and the Word was God, meaning the Word had the same nature as God did. Both God and the Word had the God nature. He is not saying God and the Word who was with God are the same person. No, they are two different persons or beings. One is God and the other is like him, meaning has the God nature. Notice what we read in Proverbs chapter 8. Contextually, this is talking about the Son of God under the title of wisdom, as we saw in an earlier question. My aim now is to show you how what John said in the beginning of his gospel is the same thing we read in Proverbs 8. Notice, when he, that is the Lord or Jehovah, prepared the heavens, who is I? Contextually, it refers to the one who was brought forth out of God before creation. When he prepared the heavens, I was there. When he set a compass upon the face of the depth. When he established the clouds above, then I was by him as one brought up with him, and I was daily his delight, rejoicing always before him. What did we just read? The speaker is saying, when God created the worlds, when God made all things, I was already there. Going back to John chapter 1 verse 1, in the beginning was the Word and the Word was with God is the same as then I was by him. And the phrase and the Word was God is based on the earlier point of Proverbs 8, which tells us that this Word or the Son of God or wisdom was brought forth or begotten of God before creation took place. Because he is brought forth or begotten of God, he has the same nature as God, the God nature. So this Word is God in nature and in infinity, but not in personality. Because John tells us he was with God, and Proverbs tells us he was brought forth from Jehovah or God. So John begins his gospel by borrowing from the Old Testament to establish the divinity of Jesus by establishing his pre-existence. And at the same time, he concludes by telling us that his purpose in writing this gospel was to lead others to believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God. There is an undeniable link between the sonship of Christ and his divinity or Godship. There is no need to make John's writing contradict the Old Testament. John was simply stating what the Son of God said about himself in Proverbs chapter 8, that he pre-existed creation, that he has the God nature because he was begotten of God. So what does John chapter 1 verse 1 mean? It means that Jesus or the Son of God or the Word of God or the wisdom of God pre-existed creation. When creation happened, that word or that person was already there. And he is God means he has the God nature, as we are told in Proverbs chapter 8. He was brought forth out of God, meaning he has the same nature as God because he's the Son of God. And he was there when creation took place. Don't forget to send your questions in, and God bless.